This world is beyond cruelty.
You and Denis obviously go back many years, many films.
9 years.
Yeah.
9 years, yeah.
What is it sort of like to be in his world, to sort of watch him evolve?
I love being in his world, you know? I mean, I was talking about this the other day with somebody where it's like great filmmakers that I've had the gift of being able to work with are misfits. They're true misfits. They're not cool people. They're socially totally inept. And they've found this medium to be able to work through that they can express themselves wildly and specifically. And what's going on in their head that we never were privy to, now we get to experience. So the Coen brothers, Denis, you know, they're all along, Gus Van Sant, it's all along the same lines. But Denis and I have a great friendship and a great shorthand that makes it really a treat to work with him.
Yeah, I like that. Someone once said, like, if a filmmaker's too good in the room, their movie's gonna be bad. Like, if they're too slick, they're too. Yeah.
Denis definitely not slick.
Was it ever a doubt in your mind that the second movie would come to be? I mean, I know you were in limbo for a little while.
There's always a doubt because it's a business. It depends on people, whether people see the movie or not, you know? I mean, the great thing now is like, it's kind of like the digital age. Kids are going, well, what was that film thing about? So they're all buying film cameras. So you see at Sammy's Cameras now, they're loading up on film and people are buying film again. It's the same thing with theaters. You get used to the TV, you're like, oh, that's the new thing. We're just gonna watch streaming. And people are like, well, what are theaters? God, remember when we were in the theater? Remember when we saw Apocalypse Now the first time? Remember when we saw Lawrence of Arabia for the first time? And they're like, let's go back to the theater. What better type of movie to be able to do that with? Not just as a selling point, as an experience. I want the full experience. I'm a whore in that way. I want to be cellularly moved by things. I don't want to have a refrigerator that I can resort to, you know.
Good. And you got to be part of that cinematic legacy too in Wadi Rum, right? And
in Wadi Rum?
Yeah.
Yeah. With that and Abu Dhabi, outside of Abu Dhabi. Wadi Rum was great, but we drove out to it. Abu Dhabi, you were in the middle of it. Like, we stayed in a hotel that was surrounded by 100 kilometers of nothing but sand, which is disconcerting for some people. For me, it was great. I loved it. I could do it again tomorrow. But yeah, to be there I think we were there for 6 weeks. It was great.
I love Gurney. I feel like my dad and I quote the, like, smile Gurney. I am smiling all the time.
Good.
So, but it's like a relief when he comes back on screen. So
Good.
Can you talk about, like, where we meet up with him and what he's been doing?
Well, you haven't, you know, there's been time. I remember when we were on set, we were like, how much time has passed? And I think it's something like 9 months. And would his hair be this long and would do it, losing weight, and like he's more of a desert rat now. He's surviving as opposed to thriving and all this kind of stuff, but he's brokenhearted. That's the biggest thing. And when he sees Paul, there's this great kind of like open, I could never do it now, but at the moment, it's just like looking at him and saying, oh my God, this thing still exists, you know, therefore I still exist, you know, and it's a really nice moment that when you see him attach himself to Paul again in the way that he does, which is kind of sad in the beginning because Paul is on this trajectory and he kind of has to keep, you know, catch up to it. But then once he does, it's a great, you know, partnering and witnessing.
Denis has spoken about how Timothée has sort of grown up between the two films. Did you?
In a major way.
Yeah.
In a major way. It was like a little kid. And he didn't hide it. He was like, what is this? What do we do? Oh my God, it's so big. So many cameras, so many this, you know. And how do you do this? And you're like, you're doing it. You're exactly where you should be.
Yeah.
And right now, he's exactly where he should be. When I'm watching some of the speeches that he's doing in Dune 2, I'm like, that's a mature guy. I'm seeing a guy coming to terms with himself personally, and yet it's happening professionally and as a parallel universe. It's really cool to experience.
That's neat. I mean, I know people are always fretting about, you know, there's no new generation of movie stars, but I'm like,
that's not true.
Here.
It's not true, and especially even beyond Timothée, you have Florence, you have Zendaya, who's proven to do like the rawest work. Yeah. You know, I've said it 100 times, but it's like, I don't want to see anybody, you know, leaning on their celebrity. You know what I mean? I want people when they go to work to say, okay, that's that. Now we're at work. Now let's get into it. And it's a rough, bizarre world that should never be shot with an iPhone.
Yes.
As
You-
a behind the scenes, I mean.
You've been part of so many great ensembles. I mean, does it still feel rare and special to sort of be part of just a troupe of actors this
Especially
group?
this one. Yeah, like for sure. I wouldn't say no during this interview, but the truth of the matter is like, no. It's like, when you're with that group of actors in one room, all of you together, and you're like, oh my God, this is truly special. Like very few people can say that they had this experience with this many actors that you've seen throughout the years, or these new people that you respect, or Javier, who I worked with 17 years ago, or whatever. It's all, yeah. I feel very. It's a gift and a present.
Did the scope feel bigger from your standpoint, or did it feel, sort of on?
You mean
the
this,
last one?
the two compared to one?
Yeah.
It did feel bigger. It felt a little more stressed. Not that I took it personally, because I didn't, but when I saw it, I didn't expect what I saw.
Yeah.
It was much bigger, and it was much more electric than I had expected,
Yeah.
which I loved.
It is very propulsive. I mean, it's sort
Propulsive
of a
is
full
a
body.
perfect word. It is. It's a full body experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's, for me, I've seen it one time, and I know I'll see it again. Like, you go, we're doing a premiere, but let's leave because we've already seen it 10 times and all that. You go, no, I want to stay for this one because I want more.
Yeah.
I want more of it.
Yeah.
You start to be objective, and it's like, yeah, I was in it, but this is different.
That's
This
good.
is all of it put together. Yeah, it's really good.
Step
It's like
outside.
best case scenario.
Right. Yeah, Denis doesn't seem like he's in that headspace
No.
yet. He cannot.
Wow, he's been doing it for what, 2 years?
Right.
This one movie. Yeah. God. It's yours now.
Was it as grueling being back in the desert, or was it?
It's grueling, but it's a grueling that I like personally. I like challenging my idea of comfort often. So I really like being out in the desert. It was hot. I mean, some days were awful, and you have a big glass bubble on your head, and it's 105 degrees, and you're like, get me home. Where are my kids? But even then, you look back and you see the work and how it's always worth it. It's not worth it if you do that, and then you see the movie and you go, you know what I mean? It's different when you see the movie and you go, wow, this is truly an experience. This is somebody special who put this together, a group of people, Craig Fraser and Patrice and all that, put this together in such a very special way. You don't come across directors like Denis often. So I'm happy that I'm one of the few people that get to work with him on a regular basis. I feel very grateful.
Finally, witnessing that fight, it just, you also feel that in your body too. I mean, what was that sort of like to watch that go down?
Which?
The Austin and Timothée.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was so good because we were all there.
Yeah.
And I'm photographing the whole thing, and Greg's photographing the whole thing, and trying to get the better picture and all this stuff. But when you see, what I loved about that is when you see people on the side going through the moves, they want to, you know what I mean? They don't want to be the one actor that makes a mistake. And there were a lot of moves in that fight, and they did it from beginning to end. It's not like they did, okay, let's do 4 moves, and then we stop, and then, okay, the actor didn't study, and the actor didn't actually rehearse and all that. You see 2 guys that really rehearsed, that were truly going at it, that were hurting themselves, that were falling, that were jumping on each other. All that stuff. You're like, yes, this is like old school. And a bunch of pansies getting together and doing this thing, and I have my stunt guy do it. And like, those guys were doing it, and it was impressive.
And you were just competing with an Oscar-winning cinematographer to take a picture, so yeah.
No, it's true. He won, by the way.
He won.